people in charge of America, they owe the white man restitution. You know, slavery and all that stuff that all the blacks always claim that they need restitution for. Dude, that's shit from people that, you know, the 17th century. That's 400 years ago. I ain't responsible for their heinous actions, period. Nobody should be responsible for somebody else's actions. That's the thing. But currently, through DEI hiring, the white man has been discriminated against and has caused a whole generation of white men to basically fall off into the toilet. And that's the problem. The people that have done this discrimination, they are alive, and there needs to be restitution. Okay? And it needs to happen now. Because they are racist, they're hiring based on skin color, and because we're white and we're the majority of the country, we get less jobs. Because they gotta have so many blacks, so many Hispanics. And you know what really pisses me off? Is that they're doing it inside of a school system. Brownsville in Pensacola, Florida, said that my kid basically would be in a lotto. But they explained that in the lotto, they can't have just, you know, they can't have all, well, the way they said it is they can't have just all boys or all girls. So they have to do it selectively. And I question, you know, what do you mean selectively? Well, we got to have enough minority. So in an area where there's 80% white kids, so let's say 10,000 kids apply, 8,000 of the kids are white, but they're out of the picture because they don't need more white kids. They need brown and other color skins. This is the stupidest, most racist thing in history. I mean, come on. I thought you learned from history, but you people are morons. You know, there was a guy who said, I had a dream that I would be judged on the merit of my character and not by the color of my skin, yet we have all these DEI practices that does exactly that. They judge you on your skin color, and they give you jobs based on your skin color, and because of that, all white men deserve restitution, and I mean now. If you agree with me, America, if you're a white man and you agree, or if you're somebody else, maybe you're a minority and you agree, you've been through this bullshit, but not actually lived through it. You've heard the history books about how black people were treated badly, but that was before you were born. We are currently living discriminative practices that have left the white man in tatters. So please leave a comment and let me know your thoughts, America. Have a good day. Restitution now.
Oh, wow. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakak Madash. Double honor to our apostles, elders, bishops here. A great millstone for teaching his truth is going all around the earth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. It's your brother Atazawan from the great millstone here in St. Louis. And we'll start out with an AI overview over the clip that we just watched, right, that I put in the front. And, you know, Esau is acting like a hoe, all right, because he thinks it's unfair that he's getting a taste of what is deserving unto him. All right, I got that clip from the brother, the Hopeful Elect 3, and I don't know where he finds them from, but, you know, he comes up with some good ones, all right, that we can use to make lessons off of. So this guy's whole problem is the fact that he thinks that so-called white men, which is Esau, Edom, all right, has gotten a short end of the stick over the last, I don't know, let's just say 50, 60 years, okay, and blames these programs for their plight, you know, and thinks they deserve restitution. Well, not so fast, smart guy, all right, because what we're dealing with here in this day and age is really prophecy, okay? The prophecy of what was going to happen to the children of Israel once they got on this side of the world, the uttermost parts of the world, all right? What was going to eventually happen to us, okay? And then what was going to eventually happen to those that put their hands on us, right? And so some of these prophecies still have to come to pass. And so you're starting to see some of these things happen to these other nation people. Well, that's all part of the plan of Yahweh Shib Yahweh Shai, all right? And there's no amount of laws, policies, acts, if you will, that can be written and signed by any man that can change the prophecy of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. You know, and you get so tired of hearing these crackers fucking complain about their troubles. Okay, what was happening to the Israelites for as long a period as it did, they didn't seek to change anything, right? Well, they couldn't, okay, even if they wanted to. But this just goes to show you the double standard. See, he thinks he's supposed to be on top forever, and that's not how it's played out through the scriptures. All right, so quickly, we're going to look at what he was saying. So he talked about DEI, right, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, all right, was enforced, because I looked it up, how was DEI enforced in America, all right? So it goes on to say, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, was enforced through federal laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title Number 7, prohibiting discrimination and mandated equal opportunity alongside executive orders for federal contractors, leading to policies for fair hiring, training, and pay enforced by the EEOC. Now we're going to stop right there briefly. So here it is. This is an agreement from 1964. And when did slavery start? How many years? 250 years ago? I think I actually got that pulled up. We'll look at that next. All right. So in my estimation, from 1964 till today, it's only 60 years, or you could say 61 years, but roughly 60 years. Okay, so if the first ships came here in 1619 or whatever it says, nigga, you got 190 more years to be kicked in your ass just on this side in America. What are you complaining about? You see? You see how unfair this man is? For 60 years of giving Jake an opportunity, okay? We didn't prosper here. We got an opportunity to prosper, but it didn't. Look at what happened to us. It didn't happen. That's all it's telling you. So you could hire Jake today and maybe not hire Esau, but a lot of the times Jake don't even make it past probation, right? And so you end up giving that job, calling that white man and giving him the job. There's various other things that happen in between that. As far as EEOC, they may hire a certain number of them, talking about Jake, whether it be blacks, as he says, right, Latinos, right, Native Americans. You get an opportunity, but they're looking to get rid of you some kind of way anyway. So you really don't stay in the job and have a career, right? So they end up calling Esau behind you, and they get the job, and they make a career out of it. So just because it says it gives you an opportunity doesn't mean that you made a living out of it, if you understand what I'm saying. So Esau is full of shit. But what he doesn't understand is that these curses is falling on him. All right, so I'm going to go on. And it says here, executive orders for federal contractors. Let me see if I can highlight it. Salakia. Federal contractors leading the policies for fair hiring, training, and pay enforced by the EEOC and DOJ. Right. So many a times it went back there, you could say, shit, even in the 30s and 40s, if Jake did have a job, he wasn't on the level as Esau. He wasn't making the same money. He didn't have an opportunity to join the union. He didn't get an opportunity to get promoted. They just needed people to do the work, and they paid them less. See, but he doesn't mention that. He talk about you thought you would learn from history. Well, who wrote your history here on this side? You see? And now he thinks that they're owed something. You ain't owed shit but a kick in the ass. Salakia. But that's what you owed 2 times. Okay, going on, it says, in the DOJ, but recent shifts prioritize quote-unquote merit-based systems, casting doubt on preferences and focusing on preventing illegal discrimination, not mandating quotas. Enforcement mechanisms include legal actions against discrimination policies, discrimination practices, requirements for reporting pay gaps in some regions like the EU, and internal corporate policies promoting inclusive culture, but current trends emphasize compliance with laws against preferences. Right. So if you didn't have these things, guess what they would be doing? They'd be firing Jake for no reason, right? They would keep him down, right? Though Jake is smarter than all of them put together, okay? Would not get the promotions, would not be recognized, would not gather anything from merits. So these certain policies were put in place, but you still 190 years behind. Once you that far behind, you can't make it up with policies. So what is this fool complaining about? All right. Now he's complaining about them curses hitting his ass. So let's take a look at slavery. When you go to the AI overview, and this is just generally speaking, okay? Just generally speaking on this side of the world for how this place was established, okay? Not looking at the prophecy of what was going to happen to them, Salakia. So let's look at this. It says slavery in the U.S. lasted nearly 250 years from the arrival of the first enslaved Africans, as they say, in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619 until the ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865. Now look how many years that is, from 1619 to the ratification in 1865, so-called. All right? Now, not to mention what happened after that. Reconstruction, Jim Crow, segregation, and so on. You see how Jake was done wrong, right? Going on, it says, which abolished it nationwide, though some states and territories had earlier or latter oblations dates, culminating in Juneteenth, which is some bullshit, June 19th, 1865, for the last enslaved people in Texas. This timeline covers the forced labor of Africans and African Americans, foundational to the colonies and the new nation, transitioning from colonial servitude to chattel slavery, right, which didn't free you. So they got it right there, from colonial servitude, which is slavery, to chattel slavery under the government, ending with the Civil War and Reconstruction era, right? So now, all of those years, did Jake get anything out of it? No. You got to be on your own, or you served still with the masters that held you because you had nowhere else to go. So you stayed on the plantation and worked for your master. You see? But here it is. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. We're getting to the end game, and Esau is being a bitch about everything. So let's just go over here to Deuteronomy 28:64. We just jump in right there because you can go read. Matter of fact, I'll go up top. Salakia. Just to read it, and then we'll drop right back down, all right? Because these are the curses that followed the Israelites, right? For their rebellion, for their disobedience, and so on. Deuteronomy 28:15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken, if you will not do it, right? The first 14 verses above, all right? For those of you out there who've never read it, all right? You can go ask your pastor about it. If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord Yahweh, thy power to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, right? For as long as until we get delivered. Okay, not just back then, not just up to a certain point, but even up to today. All right, so then you go down and you see all the curses that follow the Israelites, no matter where they are in the earth. Okay, being ruled over by these other nations, put into servitude, put into slavery, killed and slaughtered, okay, raped, and so on, bought and sold, okay. It's all right there. So now we drop down to Deuteronomy 28:64, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, not some people, but all people, okay, all these other nation people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, which includes later on in time, America, or the Americas, all right, the Western Hemisphere, all right. And there thou shalt serve other gods. We fell into all these different religions and false gods and all types of nonsense, right? And Jake is in that now. Buddha, Allah, Hinduism, Santa Maria, voodoo, all of this stuff. Okay? And there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone, which are these idols. Okay? And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shalt the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. Right, that's what you find today. Right, we had no peace amongst these people, even though they wrote all these policies, even though they wrote all of these acts. An act is different from a law. Okay, an act can be stripped and taken away from you. Okay, here. All right, it's not a law. You saw where it said the Civil Rights Act. Okay, that's a difference. Anyway, going on. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have no assurance of thy life. Right. So everywhere we go, we subject to be stopped. We subject to be frisked. We subject to be profiled. We subject to have our lives taken from us. You have no ease among these people. Okay. Verse 68, and the Lord Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again, right? Another time where it will be like Egypt. Serving, working, getting nothing. Okay? Now, of course, the system would have it, and we're just going to look at the system, would have it that a few will get through the cracks. Well, you got black billionaires. Okay? You know, that's what they'll say. Oh, you could pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Esau, goddammit, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Okay, don't cry and bitch. See? But that's what we were told for what, 300 years damn near? Okay? Or we'll just say from, what, 1865. You see? Going on, it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Right? When they went into Egypt the first time, did they walk in and walk out, or did they take ships? You think about that. All right? Those of you out there who want to discard the scriptures and say that the scriptures are not telling the truth, that the men of the Lord, the prophets and the teachers today are not telling you the truth. Did they walk in and walk out, or did they take ships? So then this means that it's another place. And how is Washington, D.C. set up? Just like over there in Egypt. Going on, it says, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for buying men and buying women, and no man shall buy you, right? We read this all the time. And yet you have those who still want to try to mock and question it and act as though it's not a real thing. Okay? So now, let me see here. What do I have? Because we are a special people, okay? Salaki, let me see if I want to go up. Because it talks about us, at a point where we're not called the children of the Most High. We're not called, the children of the Lord. They called us Negroes, Negroids, right? Niggers, tar babies, so on and so on and so on. Okay? Spics, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, yada, 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 yada. All right? The list goes on. And so we were not called by our names in this present time, you would say, and even back to 250, 260 years ago. We were the ones that they used to make themselves rich. And they got all this land and they passed it down to their generations. Okay? But we were a no people, which was already prophesied that would happen to us. Okay? Let me jump in right here. Verse 13. Romans 10:13 says, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved, which is Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua, and the who, or the whosoever, are those that are Israelites. Okay? Whether you know that you're a real quote-unquote Jew, right, or from the tribe of Judah, or Yahweh, or you are a Gentile unknown to the fact of what your heritage is, because that's who Paul is talking to. Okay, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Who then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed, And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? Right. So even in this modern day, and we'll go back and we'll say from the history, modern time, right? This age, this generation from 1969, Albert Bivens, right? That the truth has been in the earth, right? And has gone all around the globe now, okay? This time period of real preachers or real teachers telling you Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans who you really truly are, okay? Verse 15, and how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. But they have not all obeyed the gospel, for saith Lord, who have believed our report. So even in their day. But now we're focusing on our modern time, this generation. All right. So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Most High. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily, their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world. And so when you come into the Western Hemisphere, because this was not part of the known world back then, even in Paul's time, okay, now you get to this side of the world, this preaching has come into this side of the world, okay, to the end part of the world. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them, which would be the Gentiles, whom Paul is referring to what? The Holy Scriptures. He's going back into the Holy Scriptures. This tells you that what? The prophecies and the laws still apply. Okay? This is why he's bringing it up. Anytime where you see as it is written, all of the prophets, all of the apostles are referring to the Holy Scriptures, which means that they're still in effect. Okay? By them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you, which will be the Gentiles coming back, that will anger those, who realize that that they were of the faith and they kept all the laws, so they would say, to the best of their abilities. They is what we would do now, okay, because we're awake. But that this set of people, which you can look at as us, right, is going to upset those who have been brought up in the tradition. Okay? So these are those people, okay, that is that foolish nation, or provoke, right, those who have been brought up in the customs. I'll say it that way. Going on, it says, but to Israel he said, all day long I have stretched forth my hands unto the disobedient and gainsaying people, right? Because you have even our own who refuse to believe that this is the truth of the gospel, that everybody can make it, that Yahushua died for everybody. No, that's not true, okay? But the whole point is that things were going to turn around for those who would hear this gospel through the preaching. Okay, so let's just jump over to Salakia, man. Deuteronomy 32. And we'll read it because this is what Paul is referencing. All right, the Apostle Paul was referencing Deuteronomy 32:1. It says, give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Ascribe ye greatness unto our power. He is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a power of truth, and without iniquity, just and right is he. Right, so the scriptures are not lying when you read, yes, the Lord can be good, and the Lord can also be terrible to a person. All right, he does it all. Okay, they have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Lord Yahweh, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath brought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee, right, how good and merciful the Lord was. But you got those of our own kind who won't receive this, right? Who buck up against what it is. You had them back then and you got them today. Because you even have those of Jake who tell you they don't need to be an affirmative action. How are you going to hold this man, accountable for the shit that they've done if you don't have certain things put in place, right? I'm talking about thinking in the natural sense that these people do. So obviously there would have to be something there to force this man to do right, okay? But you got Jakes out there who think they're uppity, that I made it, so can you. Some of them have that kind of attitude, okay? And they're against the Most High. Verse 8, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, right? Only Israel. That's the Lord's portion. All other nations are just window dressing. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, flourishing, Salakia, fluttereth over her young, Salakia, spreadeth abroad. My eyes are not focused that well this morning, so forgive me. Over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord Yahweh alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields, and he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat, and thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Yeah, we got proud. You see, thou art waxing fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook the Most High, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. Right, so you put it in today's term, you got a lot of Jakes who are millionaires, and they say they don't need the Lord. Okay, but what about the rest that fell between the cracks, or that the curses are heavy, heavy, heavy on us, particularly financially, right? That we can't get a leg up. Okay, they provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, and money can be a god to a person. Okay, just ask a so-called black billionaire. All right. They provoke him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoke they him to anger. They sacrifice unto devils, not to the Most High, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, right? Because you come to this side of the earth, and some of the Jakes did make it up, and so they fall into all these other false religions, if they got one at all. If they don't sit back and just worship themselves, or the prosperity that the Lord was even and the Lord is behind that. A lot of people become prosperous. Jakes become prosperous, but that prosperity sometimes lead them to their destruction. That's the other part of that. All right, going on. Whom your fathers feared not, of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten the Most High that formed thee. And when the Lord saw it, it abhorred him because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith, right? Because we talked about salvation this time through faith in Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not the Most High. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation, right? Later on down the line. Okay. Verse 22, for fire is kindled in mine anger and shall burn into the lowest hell and shall consume the earth with their increase and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. All right, you can read the rest of it if you want. That was my point. That's what the Apostle Paul was referring to, right? So it wasn't because, these people think that they're so great and they're so smart and they found a way to just put us in captivity and, reap the benefits of our blood and all these. No, the Lord did this to us, okay? And the Lord also said, mine elect, I'm going to bring out of this. You see? So here's another example. All right, so this is Baruch chapter 4, verse 1. It says, this is the book of the commandments of the Most High, and the law that endure forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Turn thee, O Jacob, right? Because Jacob is his portion, right? The Israelites, and take hold of it. Walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. Give not thine honor to another, nor the things that are profitable unto thee to a strange nation. Right? You honor the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai. That's what you're supposed to have been doing from the very beginning. Okay? O Israel, happy are we, for things that are pleasing to the Most High are made known unto us. Be of good cheer, my people, the memorial of Israel. Right? Zion. Ye were sold to the nations, verse 6, not for your destruction, but because ye moved the Most High to wrath. Ye were delivered unto your enemies. Didn't we read that? Deuteronomy 32, Deuteronomy 28. Because all throughout the ages, it's about fulfilling the prophecy, the prophecies coming to pass, right, concerning Israel. Going on, why would the Lord, you got to think about that. Okay, so he said he was going to do this to us, but then not have an exit for us. He wouldn't have a way to get us out of it, right? Ultimately, at the end game is that all Israel will be saved, right? But we speak upon the elect now because the faith of this gospel is for the ears of the elect. But at the end of everything, all Israelites are going to enjoy the kingdom. So why would he do one and not do the other? He's not a man that he should lie, as one scripture says, right? Going on, verse 7, for ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to the Most High. So we just read that. This is how we got in this predicament. It's not because the white man was stronger than us, Esau was better than us in any kind of way. Hell no. Right? This was just their time. Right? And the Lord used them as a whipping stick. All right? For the Israelites. Verse 8, ye have forgotten the everlasting power that brought you up, and ye have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you. For when she saw the wrath of the Most High coming upon you, she said, hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion, the Most High had brought upon me great mourning. Right? And so later on, so when you get to the 1960s, you could say, in a matter of speaking, that even with that act of 1964, Voters' Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, all these different things, to a certain degree, you could say that the Lord was kind of lessening our load ever so slightly, right? Because you wasn't under as much persecution as from the 1960s, as you would say, in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, and so on, okay? It became a more modern time, right, where Jake was able to go, especially if he was in the South, he was able to move up to the North, okay, and get jobs in plants, the Ford plant, GM plant, plastic plants, rubber plants, glass plants, aluminum plants, right, brick plants, and so on, and make a decent little living, better than sharecropping. But the only thing behind that was that Jake gave up his land for a job, if he had any, right? So it was a trade-off, so to speak, right, in order to have a little bit of a better lifestyle in the North. But that's another story for another time. Going on, let's go back to verse 10. It says, for I saw the captivity. Matter of fact, let me go back up. Yeah, verse 10. For I saw the captivity of my sons and daughters, which the everlasting brought upon them. With joy did I nourish them, but sent them away with weeping and mourning. Let no man rejoice over me, a widow and forsaken of many, who for the sins of my children am left desolate, because they departed from the law of the Most High. Okay, all right. We can stop right there. The point is made. You can read the rest of it. Okay, but who cares about Esau bitching and crying? Okay, because you have to drink in your own cup now. This Deuteronomy 30:1, and it reads, "And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy power have driven thee." Right. So when you hear this gospel going across the internet, going through YouTube and various other different platforms, hitting all the ears of the elect of the Lord at this point in time, all across the world, right? It's bringing these things to mind, bringing these scriptures up. Now we're starting to see it. Eyes are starting to be open, right? And this is the fear that's falling on them, all right? Verse 2, "And shalt return unto the Lord thy power, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord Yahweh thy power will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy power has scattered thee." Now, where are we at this point in time? We really don't know, but we can see how this thing is starting to change, right? How things are starting to, we in the last days, all right? Going on to verse 4 says, "If any of thine be driven out unto the uttermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy power gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee." Right? So the elect are waking up all across the planet. Verse 5, "And the Lord thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy power will" what? "Circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord Yahweh thy power with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies." And Esau, Edom is the number one enemy. Period. All right? These other nations are going to get paid back, but they are at the top of the list. "And on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." Right? So this is what they have coming for them. And they're squawking and bitching just over this little nonsense that's going on in this country over the last 50 years. It's ridiculous. You can't make up all that. If you could in the natural sense, what I'm saying is, once you 250, 60, 90 years behind whatever it is, there's no way to make it up at all. Right? "And thou shalt," verse 8, "and thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushua, and do all his commandments which I command thee this day. And the Lord thy power will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, and in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Lord Yahweh will again rejoice over thee for good, as to rejoice over thy fathers." Verse 10, "If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in this book of the law, if thou turn unto the Lord thy power with all thy heart and with all thy soul." Right? So you can go on and read it, but the whole point in verse 7 is what's going to happen to your enemies. Okay? And that's what they have coming to them, and they don't want to drink of their own cup. Right? Because we had to drink it. All right. Jeremiah 49:7, we'll end with this. "Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him." So the Lord is starting to visit Esau, Edom. Okay? If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? if thieves by night, they will destroy till they've had enough. And we could read Obadiah, but this is really just the point. But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, right? So all these other countries, you talk about Turkey or Russia or whatever the case may be, they're all going to be wiped out. Okay? These leaders, all right? Great Britain, London, so on and so forth. These are all the relatives of Esau. This is that posterity, that branch, or the branches of that seed. But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. Leave thy fatherless children, I will preserve them alive, and let thy widows trust in me. For thus saith the Lord power, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunk it, which will be us. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? No, Esau, you're not going to go unpunished, so fuck your feelings. Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Basra, right, chief city, what's a chief city for the Edomites today? America. All right? For I have sworn by myself, said the Lord, that Basra shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. Right? That's what's coming. Okay? Let's read verse 14. I have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her and rise up to the battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men. Thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rocks, that holdest the height of the hill. Right, this is why these son of a guns, they always want to live at the top of a mountain, right? They always want to be in the penthouse, right? They want to have the highest perch there is for a man so he can look down on his kingdom or look down on everybody else. That's how that man is. And so now he's squawking and complaining, sitting in his lazy boy in his living room about they need to be repaid for all the years that they didn't get jobs and this and that. Fuck you, man. Going on anyway, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, that holdest the heights of the hill, Salakia, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, right, which is the symbol of America, it was the symbol of the Romans, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord. Also Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. All right. So anyway, that's pretty much the point. Salakia for going on so long. But I saw that and it just lit a fire under me through the spirit. Because, man, these guys Esau Edom has had his way over here in the Americas, right? And throughout the earth, robbing, stealing, murdering, pillaging. Okay. And now, the lesser of them are complaining. No, you're going to get repaid 2 times over. All right. So with that, I'll end the lesson. All praise to the Most High Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. Shalom.